Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at the Star Wars The High Republic Phase 2 Quest of the Jedi Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on November 12th or 13th, depending on where you get your books. What we're looking at here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that's supplied by Phil Noto. On the left-hand side is your direct market cover, and that one is supplied by Mark Lamming. Everything else underneath the dust jacket is the same, so we are going to shift the focus back to the cover here, the standard edition cover. So we do have the same trade dress that they've been using for the previous volume, or I guess the High Republic volumes, whether it's the trade paperbacks or the omnibus that came before. So we have Phase 2 over here, Quest of the Jedi, and Phase 1, Light of the Jedi. So this is what they will look like on your shelf. Well, actually, this is how they will look on your shelf, right next to each other. Phase 1, Phase 2, and hopefully we'll get a Phase 3. Though it doesn't say Star Wars The High Republic Phase 1, this one does say Phase 2, Quest of the Jedi. Oh, it says Phase 1 down here. I'm surprised they didn't put Phase 2 here. Instead, they put it right there under the logo. So you have Scott, Sol, Anindito, and Brocardo taking the billing there, and also in, actually, let's shift the focus back to this, where we have the cover here of Jedi Vildar Mac with the Padawan Mathea Cathli. And this time around, it's a century before the Acolyte. So we saw the spine and now the back of the book delve even further back into the history of Star Wars. Because coincidentally enough, or not really coincidence, but this actually takes place before the events of Phase 1. I'll talk about that here in a second. Let's look underneath the dust jacket, but actually let's look at the flaps, a new chapter for the High Republic, and a little bit about the creators. Kevin Scott, Charles Soule, Ario Anindito, and Andrea Brocardo. And this image here of some of the main characters from the first story arc that's collected in here. So we are going to crack this book open, talk about the stories found in here, and of course look at the artwork and extras and build of this omnibus. Alright, let's go ahead and crack this omnibus open. You have your black end sheets here, and the title, Star Wars The High Republic, Phase 2, Quest of the Jedi, and your credits. I almost said credits. Like credits? Not Republic credits. But anyway, the credits of the people that put the book together. You have Kevin Scott up here being the writer of Quest of the Jedi, and then Charles Soule coming from the books and writing the High Republic, The Blade. Ario Anindito and Andrea Brocardo are the main artists here, with Marika Cresta and David Messina. Mark Morales, Andrea Brocardo, and David Messina supplying the inks, Frank William doing the colors, and Ariana Mayer doing the lettering. As far as the art down here is Marco Castillo and Jethro Morales doing the art for the Blade, with colors by Jim Charalapindis and Jim Campbell, and then Travis Lanham doing the lettering here. And actually the timeline is designed by Carlos Lau. So let's give credit to the timeline, because the timeline does help people in case you haven't been reading the comics, in case you're coming in from the TV shows or the movies. This kind of lays out exactly where this book is in the timeline of the Skywalker era. Because, I mean, that's what a lot of people think of when they think of Star Wars. I mean, because that's what we watched as kids, right? Or adults, depending on when they came out. But you have the original trilogy here, the Disney shows, and then the, I'm sorry, how dare I, the prequel trilogy. This is the original trilogy. It feels weird saying that. With A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, but also more of the Disney series, like Rebels and Andor. Andor's so good. The movie Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and then The New Republic, which also has some of the Disney stuff. And then the sequel series, the trilogy, The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and The Rise of the Skywalker. And this here is interesting because it takes place 150 plus years before Phase 1. So it's before the fall of the Starlight. So this collects Star Wars The High Republic from 2022, issues 1 through 10. And then Star Wars The High Republic, The Blade 1 through 4 miniseries. This book has 360 pages and retails for $75. And we are at the very beginning of this mission that this particular Jedi is on. And this is Vildar Mac. He's a Jedi Knight, and he's having a flashback, really a dream about his past, how he's met this darkness, and now he is heading over to Jedi for a particular mission that the Jedi Masters have sent him on. And it's this holy city, and I think this story is really interesting because we're looking at a time of the Jedi where the people that are able to use the Force aren't all Jedi Masters or Padawans. And speaking of Padawans, we are introduced to this young lady here. This is Padawan Mathea Cathly, or otherwise known as Maddie, as she likes to call herself. And over here, Jedi Knight Vildar Mac is sent to Jeddah to a convocation of Force-using people. That's what he's here to do, and talk to them. But he ends up finding himself in the middle of a murder mystery. And it involves this character right here. This is Tay Sarek. And Tay Sarek looks like has murdered a Jedi in the temple. And it looks like the Force is now being used for the side of evil. And the Force is still working like a mythical, religious thing, but it's got a lot of politics in here. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like what they were doing in the Old Republic comic from Dark Horse Comics. But yes, we are led to believe that Tay Sarek, this thief that we meet in issue number 1, is guilty of murdering a Jedi in the temple. And it's not all as it seems. And then we're introduced to other characters here, too. This is Olivia, and we're going to see her play a big part in this, along with this council. These are the other Force users. They're not all Jedis, right? Like we have Master Liban, we have Susili, and a lot of them will play a big part, especially in the first 10 issues, or the 10-issue story arc here. So through these pages, we're going to see the story of Vildar Mac and what his past really means, and then how his Padawan, Maddie, is learning to use the Force, and is the character of the thief known as Tay Sarek really guilty of killing somebody, or if there's a bigger conspiracy going on, and is it a Jedi conspiracy, or is it something else? Somebody else going on. And then there's the whole Path of the Open Hand here. There's a lot of temples. And then you get to see the use of the Force in what I think is pretty badass ways. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like what Vader was able to do in the Vader Down storyline. I think this is a really cool story because it's connected a little bit to that of High Republic Phase 1, the comic books. Now keep in mind, I have only read the comics of High Republic. I've not read the novels. I haven't read the manga, nor it was a young adult series, right? And I haven't even finished watching The Acolyte. Although, when we get to the second series, The Blade, we are going to see an appearance by a character from The Acolyte that I remember. And this is the temple right here, where all these beings are meeting that can use the Force, or have tapped into the Force, but aren't necessarily Jedi Knights. Which, to me, feels really like a weird time in the Jedi Order and what they're exactly meant to do. You know, if they're peacekeepers, or are they police, or are they investigators? What exactly are the Jedi Order supposed to do? Especially when we have the beginning of perhaps something that will be known as the Sith later on. And we have seen Jedi before. If you've watched Star Wars Rogue One, you know of this moon and what it looks like after some of the events that are happening in this series. I love the fact that in the series, we're also exploring the different Force-using cultures that aren't Jedis, which I think makes for a good story, because you want to explore other aspects of the Force, right? And it makes sense that the Jedi aren't the only ones that are tapped to this particular Force, because you have the what are they called? The Falanasi and then the Matukai. Now, that's what this is at the very beginning. It's a murder mystery. It's a little bit of a slow burn, and you get to meet these characters, and there is some tie-ins to that of the High Republic Phase 1. The second part of the series, or the second thing that is collected in here, is The Blade. Okay, so The Blade is this 4-issue miniseries, and it tells you it's, again, taking place in a different part of the galaxy and 150 years before the fall of the Starlight Beacon. And in this miniseries, we're focusing on a character that we've heard about and his sister. This is Porter Engle, and this is the story of his relationship with his sister, and both of them are attempting to solve this internal issue that's happening on this planet called Ganzavor, and they're Jedi Knights. Now, we do get some flashbacks of them when they were Padawans at the Jedi Temple, and just how they became siblings and how close their relationship is. And as I mentioned, you do get the flashback here of how the relationship started between Porter Engle and Badash Sylvain. Now, if you've read the Charles Soule Darth Vader comic, you may see some of the origins of Badash Val. And also, the beginning of the General Vyse, who will later become a big part of the Jedi Legends, and there towards the end of this miniseries. So this is a story that's setting up these two characters that you probably have heard about if you've been keeping up with the Marvel era of Star Wars. Not the original Marvel Star Wars, but the modern era of Star Wars. It's setting up some of those characters, along with some characters that have appeared in the Acolyte series. At least I made it that far, because I made it like 2 or 3 episodes in. And all the way in the back, it does leave enough room for another series called The Broken Blade. Oh, and who exactly is the Blade? That's the big question. Who exactly is the Blade that they speak of? And you have variant covers back here, where you see some of the characters done and portrayed by different artists. I wish we had seen like character designs for the High Republic 2. We do have character designs for the Blade miniseries. And that's all the way back here. There we go, the Blade character designs. Different versions, and then some original pages here, including this fight with General Vyse. And your end sheets. And let's talk about the build really quick. It is sewn binding. It's 360 pages. And this one is printed at the iMac printer. So when you're looking at some light colors, there's a little bit of bleed through happening. And I find this interesting that, so they don't have a design or a pattern when it comes to pages like this. It's just a blank page. It's like that cream color that they're using for the trade dress. And I'm not sure why they are doing that. Usually, most of the time, like for the X-Man, they put the X logo there. And that's so they can match up those spread pages, or sometimes the splash, to make sure they're in the right order. But for this particular book, it's just sometimes a variant cover on the opposite side of the regular cover, or sometimes it's just that blank page, where they could have put some variant covers on the opposite side. Now, the way the book lays over, you do have minor gutter loss. It's not very much, but it's there. And that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, And you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over 40 euros. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan on picking this up, if you've been following the Star Wars collections in omnibus format, in epic format, in trade paperback, or single issues, or what era you would love to see collected. What other stories would you like to see collected from Star Wars comics? If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.